Good morning. In this video, we're going to be going over the COVID guidelines for Lakeview Presbyterian. This is for phase 1 and 2, but from what we've seen from state, since the state has gone into phase 3, however, it's like a leveled out phase 3 or a kind of phase 3. What we've seen from the Department of Ed for state coming in and telling us our different pandemic rules that we're going to use with COVID in the different phases, it hasn't changed that much. They've told us that they're still going to follow this, but there will be specific guidelines to make sure that we don't go back into our full regular, this is how we run, across the board. Now with us, I think what a lot of the numbers are going to mean is that we can go back to the regular way that we run. Because we are viewing our school as we don't have any spaces where we think are actually confined. So what we mean by that is, like, if we get a case of COVID under our roof, we don't find it reasonable to say that only that class was exposed. We are a very small facility with one spot where all our teachers walk into our kitchen. They all share one restroom. So if one teacher has been exposed, it's reasonable to say that everybody in our building has been exposed and we need to quarantine a whole building. Knock on wood, we've been lucky so far and haven't had any of that happen within our walls. What we have had is secondhand or third-hand exposure. So someone that we know outside of the school has it and we could have been around them. Well, that wasn't a positive case under our roof, so that person that was around them quarantined for 14 days, but we didn't have to close our school down. If we get a positive case under our roof and we think that they were positive while they were here, then we definitely will end up with a full school quarantine or exposure quarantine, to where we actually ask that everyone will stay quarantined for 14 days. Luckily enough, that hasn't happened, but that's where we are. Because we are taking that stance, it opens up a little bit more for us in being able to move groups together in the numbers that the state releases with specific phase 3 guidelines. So that's going to make a big difference whenever it comes into, if they up our numbers to 35, then we can move our 4s and both of our 3-year-old classrooms together outside, or after nap, whenever we wake up, we normally all go to the same yard, 1s through 4s, because it's less than around 35 kids. So at that point we would all go back to doing that, where all of our teachers could be on one yard to make sure that we all had enough eyes across the board. So when and if that happens, you will definitely be alerted to that. We'll let you know, like, hey, we are now mixing the groups after nap. That starts at 3 o'clock. If you don't want that, then you have the ability to come and pick up for that. But again, whenever we look at it as across the board measures, because we are taking the stance that we are with one positive case, it's not going to have that true effect, as long as we can keep the numbers where they need to be for the different phases that the state has put on. So carpool line. Carpool also is something that state has taken a stance on, that said they will not be changing it until we know that there is some type of cure for COVID. We just don't want that many people in and out of our building. So what that means is, for the foreseeable future, our drop-off and pickup is going to stay the same. I haven't had too many issues or seen too many issues. I know there are times whenever it can back up, but we have been trying our hardest to make sure that it goes as fast as possible. Just let us know if there's anything that you see within our carpool or dismissal that is a little bit that could be worked on. With dismissal, the main thing is, if no one sees you at the door, make sure to phone call. If I don't answer the phone, it's more than likely because I'm going to get a child and bringing a child up, and then I'll see you when I walk out, or I've already seen you and you didn't know that I saw you and I went back to get your child. So if I don't answer, don't write it off just yet. I swear I will go. We're checking the door quite often, especially in those afternoon pickups at 1 and 3. But if it happens that you're a little bit late, especially for the 1 o'clock one, give me a call, because more than likely I'm not walking out there as much as I do in the afternoon. So carpool line, let's see, please, parent drop off. We've had a lot of different people dropping off and picking up as well, like grandparents, nannies, aunts and uncles. Anyone that comes and gets your child, please reiterate to them they are not to get out of the car. It's at the drop off or noon pickup. Please don't get out of your car. At the 1 o'clock pickup and the 3 o'clock pickup or 4 o'clock pickup, I kind of understand if there's no cars behind you and you want to get out and put your child in there so they don't have to put them in and drive off. Totally understandable. But if there's cars lined up, please get them in as quickly as possible and pull over to the side so that you can buckle them in and we can get them more kids going outside. At all times, you must be wearing a mask. If you exit your vehicle and we're walking your child out, you must be wearing a mask. So please reiterate that to whoever is going to be dropping off and picking up your child. It just makes it better for our teachers. For the children that need to be unbuckled, in the mornings at drop off, that's not as important. You definitely still need to keep them, try their hardest to keep them unbuckled while they're being dropped off to us. Especially if there's a long line, it just helps us so that we aren't wasting a lot of time there to try to get them unbuckled. The most important thing is in the afternoon, I cannot buckle your child. That's a state insurance code, so we can't buckle your children for safety code reasons. So remember, whenever you come in for open house as well, the same safety guidelines that we place on your children walking into the building will be placed on you as well. So if you have taken any fever reduced in the last 24 hours, had any shortness of breath, sore throat, cough, or contact with anyone with COVID, you will not be allowed in the building. If that is the case for you and your child and you still want to have that meeting, make sure to let me know and I will set up a Zoom meeting for your teacher that day and you can Zoom with your teacher. We also do the health observations throughout the day. So the same thing that we do with your child in the morning, taking their temperature and watching for those different signs, shortness of breath, sore throat, or cough. We do that midday and at the end of the day as well. So your child's getting those, they're getting their temperature taken multiple times throughout the day if they stay with us all day. Hand washing is happening a lot. I think a lot of our kids are like pros at hand washing now. I'm really impressed with them. So let's see, and I'm not going over this word for word because I would really hope that you guys, if this is like a 6-page document, I would really hope that you guys would go through and really read it and look at all the updated standards that we're having to put in place for our COVID guidelines. For nap and lunch, our nap and lunch bunts, we will need a lunch packed daily. So whatever it is, and whatever you're sending, try to make sure that your child can open it or kind of like rip an edge for them so that it's already kind of opened. It really helps our teachers not be able to touch your child's food. Now, if something comes in and you absolutely, like that's your child's food and they can't open it, we absolutely will open it for them. But it would help us out a lot if you would kind of take that initiative for us in the morning. Grapes. We cannot cut grapes this year, and grapes must be cut for your child to be able to have them. So if they're not cut into 4s, and what that means, if it's still cut in half, we still can't give it to them. You need to cut it into 4s. That is a choking hazard for any child under the age of 7. And hot dogs are the same way. So they can't be cut into rounds. They have to be cut lengthwise and then lengthwise again. So they're cut into 4s, and then you can cut them into little pieces, which is different than what our children are eating at home. But it's also a pretty large choking hazard for us here at school. So we're just not accepting anything like that. The other thing is like fruit that you send. If you send a whole orange, we can't peel that orange for your child. If your child can peel an orange, then absolutely they can go for it. But we can't peel that for them. The other things are the straws with like the carton drinks, whether it be milk or juice or whatever it is you send. We shouldn't have to touch the straws. That's why we ask for a water cup every day. With the water cup, we can close the lid, twist it off, and provide them water at any point during the day. But it's hard for us to be able to not touch the straws. So, and a lot of kids can't do that reasonably on their own to get the straw completely out of the package and in the cup. So, please keep that in mind whenever you're sending food with us daily. The other big change this year is that whatever you send to us reasonably needs to be able to be cleaned nightly. So if you send us a cloth Pottery Barn lunchbox, reasonably, I don't feel you're washing that every night, and so we can't accept those lunch boxes this year. So please change out your lunch box if you haven't already. Most of you have. Those Bentigo boxes, they're really heavy, but they're also like easily cleaned. Any type of plastic thing. There's also quite a few lunch boxes out on the market now that are like a I can't think of the word, but it's like a bacteria guard on it, or you can wipe it down rather easily. Just make sure that anything that Houston does daily is getting cleaned at home pretty often. And then also their school bags should be washed every Friday. So you should be laundering both their nap mats and their bags every week. I know they do wrinkle up, but like none of us are going to judge you. Just wash them and send them back wrinkly. It's totally okay. Nap mats must fit in the cubbies in the hallways. I haven't had too many issues with this year, but just make sure that we're not getting overly large nap mats. Sanitizing, we're making sure on our end that everything is cleaned every 60 minutes. I don't foresee that changing under state guidelines. They whenever they came out and mentioned the few things that they thought would be going away, like the specific numbers on classrooms and things like that, they mentioned nothing about us stopping cleaning in the rigorous manner that we're having to do so. So I don't expect that to change anytime soon. But just make sure on your end that you're taking those steps to make sure that all of the items that come to us and go home are cleaned as well. The guidelines for excluding children and staff with illness, this is where it comes into, I don't know that they're going to change this any point in the foreseeable future, which yes, it does put a lot stricter rules